Okay, let's think about market penetration for a second. You're out there, connecting, building bridges.
Mhm.
But have you seen that Gartner study?
The one about lead conversion.
Yeah, exactly. It shows companies with dedicated entry-level business development folks, BDRs, BDAs, whatever the title,
Right, those initial engagement roles.
they hit a 40% lead conversion rate. 40%. And compare that to companies without them. It's less than 5%.
Wow, less than 5. That's a
Mhm.
that's a massive difference.
It's a chasm, really. So the big question for everyone listening, all you business developers out there is,
Mm.
are you really getting the most out of your market? Or are potential deals just, slipping away undeveloped?
That really is the core question, isn't it? We tend to focus on the final signature, the closed deal, but so much happens before that.
Right, in that early phase.
Exactly, the activation phase.
There.
That's where these entry-level developers come in, and their role is, well, it's way more strategic than people often assume. It's not just about making first contact.
It's foundational.
It really is, laying the groundwork for growth. So today, yeah, we're doing a deep dive. We'll unpack their responsibilities, their authority, the skills they need, and crucially, when it actually makes sense to bring them on board.
And we're aiming to go beyond just the job description, right? Give people some real actionable insights based on solid research.
Absolutely. Find some of those surprising leverage points these roles offer.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Entry-level business developer. We hear different titles, like you mentioned, BDR, BDA, BDS. What's the actual core function here?
Good question. The titles vary, sure, but the essence is engaging prospects right when they hit that activation phase. The moment they start thinking, maybe I have a problem or there's an opportunity here.
So they catch them early.
Right. And the main goal isn't hard sell. It's about nurturing that initial interest, building intent. How? By delivering real value, information that helps them see how your product or service could be the answer.
So being a helpful resource, essentially, building trust from day one. You mentioned the brand trust flywheel in the research, too. How do they fit into that?
Yes, the flywheel. The idea is that trust builds with every positive interaction, right? Well, these entry-level folks are often the very first human interaction a prospect has with the company.
That first impression.
Huge. Their job is to kickstart that positive momentum, offer insights, help them understand, with no strings attached. That initial positive vibe is critical. It spins that flywheel right from the beginning.
Makes sense. And it's not just about that first chat, is it? The research suggests a broader impact.
Oh, definitely. They have the authority, based on what we've seen, to actually help grow accounts by weaving the business development growth model into the whole BD value chain.
Okay, unpack that a bit. Business development growth model. BD value chain.
Right.
What does that look like in practice?
Right. So think of the growth model as the whole roadmap for bringing in a customer and helping them succeed with you. The value chain is just all the steps along that road, from finding them to nurturing them, understanding them, closing the deal, and keeping them happy.
Great job.
Entry-level BDs are right at the start of that chain. So they get these unique early insights into what messages work, what trips people up, where the whole process could be smoother. They see it firsthand.
Okay, so let's get really practical. Day to day, what are they actually doing, especially when building those first relationships?
Well, number one is prospect and customer communication. Obvious, maybe, but critical. They are the company initially. Clear, empathetic, professional communication sets the tone.
Sets the stage?
Exactly. Then there's identification, actively finding new potential clients, not just waiting for leads to fall in their lap, but proactively looking.
Hunting.
In a way, yeah. Then intent assessment. This is key. Is this prospect genuinely interested? Do they have a real need right now? It takes good questions, good listening.
Filtering out the noise.
Precisely. Which leads right into qualification. Okay, they're interested, but do they have the budget? What's their timeline? Making sure sales isn't chasing ghosts.
Saves everyone time down the line.
Yeah.
What else is vital in those early interactions?
Understanding requirements.
Yeah.
This is huge. Really digging into the prospect's problems, their goals. What's the real why behind this potential purchase? Both the stuff they say and the stuff they don't.
Getting beneath the surface?
Absolutely. And alongside that is value delivery, giving them useful insights about the product, the market, how things connect, often for free, before any sale talk. Our research really backs this up. It builds massive trust.
Makes sense. Give value to get value.
Right. And that directly shapes their perceived value of your offering. Then, super important, identifying the whole purchasing team. Who else needs to sign off on this? mapping out all the players.
Knowing the decision makers.
Crucial.
Yeah.
And also uncovering all the evaluation factors. What criteria are they actually going to use to compare you with competitors? Knowing that lets you tailor your approach.
Right.
And often they'll even start the initial account planning, sketching out a tailored strategy for how to engage with that specific prospect moving forward.
Wow, okay. That is a lot for an entry-level position.
Yeah,
It really sounds like their influence goes way beyond just talking to prospects.
it really does. Our findings show they touch so many other areas. Like marketing, they feedback what messages are landing, what content prospects actually engage with, invaluable stuff.
Real-world feedback.
Exactly. The sales handoff is obviously critical. The richer the information they pass over needs, budget, timeline, players, the higher the chance sales can close it.
Smooth transition.
Makes all the difference. They also give pricing insights, early signals on how sensitive prospects are to price, how they perceive the value for money. That helps the pricing team.
Interesting.
They even interact with contracting, giving them a heads up on prospect expectations or potential sticking points early on.
Proactive problem spotting.
You got it. And think about customer development. Those first interactions set expectations. Their feedback can improve that whole initial onboarding experience.
Right, smoothing out bumps early.
They can even be eyes and ears for corporate development, spotting market shifts or interesting companies out there. And for community development, finding potential partners or new audiences.
Connecting dots everywhere.
Pretty much. And maybe one of the biggest long-term impacts, feeding insights back to product development. What are customers really asking for? What unmet needs are out there? That shapes the future product.
It's incredible. It's like they're this central node collecting and distributing intelligence across the whole growth engine.
Yeah.
So to do all that, what skills are truly essential?
Yeah, it's a unique mix, isn't it? Our research really points to several key things. First, empathy. You just have to be able to genuinely connect with and understand the prospect's world.
Absolutely. Walk in their shoes.
Totally. Then ethics. Non-negotiable, a strong professional code. Having a clear sense of purpose, feeling aligned with the company's mission that drives authentic conversations.
You can tell when someone believes in what they're doing.
Definitely. Then the basics, competency in the actual BD tasks, and proficiency in their specific role. Presence is important too, projecting that credibility, that professionalism, especially on first contact.
How they carry themselves.
Right. And obviously, strong communication.
Right.
Written, verbal, visual, the whole package. They need solid research skills to find and understand prospects efficiently.
Speaking effectively.
Yep. Networking is big, building those community connections. And tied to that now is social selling using LinkedIn, other platforms, to build relationships and share value online.
That's become huge.
It has. Creativity is surprisingly important, finding solutions not just for prospects, but for internal teams they interact with. Persistence, of course. Got to keep going.
Resilience.
Big time. And increasingly, data analytics. Being able to look at the data, what's working, what's not, understanding prospect behavior.
Making informed decisions.
Right. Deep product knowledge is a given. You can't talk value if you don't know the product inside out. Technical proficiency with the tools, CRM, outreach platforms, etc.
Table stakes these days.
Pretty much.
Wow.
And finally, maybe one of the most crucial, coachability. Being open to feedback, willing to learn and adapt. It's a dynamic role.
That is a serious checklist. It really puts into perspective why our research shows they often have a different compensation structure.
Exactly. It makes sense, right? Our analysis consistently shows entry-level BD folks earning typically 10% to 20% more than comparable roles in marketing, sales, or ops.
And the rationale is?
It reflects that broader scope. They need to understand the entire BD value chain, how all the pieces fit together, because they interact with and influence so many parts of it.
It's a wider lens they need. And what about commission or bonuses? How does that usually work?
Yeah, performance incentives are common. Often it's tied to successful handoffs to sales, getting prospects to that conversion-ready stage.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Rewarding pipeline generation.
Right. But others look longer term, tying it to metrics like lifetime value, LTV, or annual contract value, ACV, that the BDR helped initiate.
Interesting. Focusing on the ultimate value created.
Yeah, and some companies are getting even more nuanced, actually rewarding contributions to that brand trust flywheel we talked about earlier. Things like positive feedback scores from initial interactions or high engagement rates during that activation phase.
Aligning the incentive directly with that early stage impact.
Mm-hmm.
Very smart. Okay, so we know what they do, why they're valuable, and how they're compensated. The big strategic question then is when. When should a company actually hire these roles? It's probably not employee number one, right?
Generally not, no. Strategic timing is critical here. Our research breaks it down by company stage. In the startup phase, the need is usually LOW
Why is that?
because the main focus is just figuring out product market fit, getting those first few customers, proving the concept. Usually the founders or leadership handle that initial outreach themselves while building basic processes.
Right. Hands-on initially.
But then when you hit the growth phase, you validated your market, you know who you're selling to, the need becomes HIGH.
Okay, this is prime time.
Absolutely. This is when you need dedicated people to really penetrate that proven market, scale up the outreach, and convert that potential systematically. And crucially, you should have some decent processes in place by then for them to plug into.
Infrastructure matters.
Big time. Then comes the expansion phase, maybe entering a new geographic market or a new vertical. The need here is also HIGH, but conditional.
Conditional how?
You need to first prove that the new market is viable and adapt your processes. Once you've done that homework, then entry-level BDs are vital for driving into that new territory.
Validate first, then scale the outreach.
Exactly. And finally, the maturity phase. Your market share is maybe starting to plateau. Here, the need might drop back down to medium or even low,
Why the decrease?
because the focus often shifts more towards keeping existing customers happy, managing accounts, and finding efficiencies, rather than aggressive new logo acquisition where these roles typically shine brightest. The ROI might change.
So it's really about aligning the investment with where the company is on its growth journey and the maturity of its own systems.
Precisely. It's not just hiring bodies. It's a strategic capability you deploy when and where it makes the most sense for maximum impact.
This has been incredibly clarifying, really mapping out the role and its strategic place. So if we had to boil it down for everyone listening, what are the top, say, 3 takeaways about entry-level business developers?
Okay, top 3. First, just remember that Gartner statistic. It's powerful. 40% lead conversion with these roles versus less than 5% without. That highlights their absolutely vital role right at the start of the customer journey.
Huge difference. Don't underestimate that early engagement.
Okay.
Number 2.
Second, their job is way broader than just cold calls. They're deep into assessing needs, delivering value up front, gathering crucial market intelligence, and feeding insights back across the entire company, marketing, sales, product, you name it. They're linchpins.
Key connectors in the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
Got it. And the final takeaway.
And third, timing is everything. Think strategically about when to bring them on. That growth phase, once you've got product market fit and solid processes, is often the sweet spot to really leverage their skills for maximum market penetration and hitting your growth targets.
Excellent. So the final thought for all you business developers listening today is this. Take a hard look at where your organization is right now. Where are you in your growth? How deep is your market penetration? Could strategically adding or maybe optimizing your entry-level BD function be the catalyst you need for that next big leap?
It's definitely food for thought.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for this deep dive. Really appreciate you breaking it all down. And thank you all for tuning in. We hope these insights prove valuable out there in the field. Until next time.